Fast forward to the 21st century and black skin is now completely fetishized. The characters would resurface in the 20th century as Sambo dolls. If you don't know what a Sambo doll is, please Google. Yeah.
I knew they just openly there, but I didn't know you could literally say no to foreigners.
Something like this happened in Germany or in Europe in general, it would be a scandal, but for some reason if Japan does it, it's okay. I mean, on one hand, I really don't want to believe it, I don't want to believe that they are this openly.
多種多様な人種により日本はがひどいと話題になってしまう。こんにちは皆さん。エリタです。また胸くそ悪い動画が流行っています。先日から謎に欧米諸国で流行ってます。スペイン語圏やフランス語圏の人間が海外から日本を攻撃するトレンドですが、今回は在日外国人たちが日本は外国人全般に対して差別を行うという訴えをしている動画を集めて翻訳しました。長話もあれなんで早速いきましょう。高評価やろ。
Okay, but can we talk about how Japan low-key problem? Because I wanted to go to the hairdresser and they didn't serve me because they showed me this sign, and not gonna lie, I never thought it would happen to me. It wasn't exactly this sign because I didn't take a picture of it. I just was so ashamed for some reason. I just didn't want to believe it. I made a TikTok some time ago where I was defending Japan and I was like, no, they're not this, they just can't serve you because of a language barrier, but it didn't happen to me personally at that point, and now I'm like, maybe because honestly, if something like this happened in Germany or in Europe in general, it would be a scandal. This hairdresser would be cancelled. But for some reason, if Japan does it, it's okay. I mean, on one hand, I really don't want to believe it. I don't want to believe that they are this openly. Part of me is still thinking oh, it's just a language barrier, that's why they don't want to serve me if I don't speak Japanese. But in the end, it's kind of...
Do you think this form of racism is okay? So this ex-post of a restaurant is going viral in Japan, and the sign on the restaurant reads, "Nowadays people go on about diversity and tolerance, but I got no intention of working while feeling unpleasant. Therefore, no Chinese or Koreans are allowed." The restaurant owner deleted the post explaining their decision, but from what I remember of reading it, they said that a lot of Korean and Chinese customers that they had in the past didn't spend much money, such as staying at the restaurant for many hours after ordering 1 or 2 dishes, or that they acted in a disruptive manner. This caused a lot of controversy online because some Japanese people thought that this was hate speech, while others defended the owner, saying that it's their right. Some have even pointed out that there are no Japanese signs in Korea and China as well. And I personally support the owner's decision. If a restaurant owner doesn't want to serve a particular race or nationality, I personally prefer if they were honest, so other people don't have to have that experience. I personally wouldn't support this view, and I personally wouldn't go to this racist. And when I said this on YouTube, some people got upset, but seriously, which option do you prefer? Do you prefer if the restaurant owner was honest about being racist, so you know to skip that restaurant? Or would you prefer if the owner kept their quiet, you went to that restaurant when you could have gone elsewhere and you get treated like dirt? Which option do you prefer? One thing that I thought was funny was that this restaurant is located in Okubo, where Korean town in Tokyo is, and it also has a large non-Japanese Asian community. So the surrounding of this restaurant looks like this.
1本目の人は言葉の壁が存在するということを周りの外国人たちに説明してきたけど、いざ自分が経験するとそのように感じた。母国のドイツで起こったら確実に問題になるって言ってましたが、ここは日本なんでドイツと比べられてもって思いましたね。さてコメント欄は可愛い彼女を擁護するコメントで溢れてますね。密かに？いやこれはもう明らかなものだろう。日本は排他的だからな。これは密かな問題じゃないでしょう。私も外国人だからって理由で日本で何回も拒否されたわ。 日本語を話してたのによ。フィリピン人の彼氏が日本に行ったけど、彼も多くの店で拒否された。彼が外国人っていう理由でね。文句言ってるけど、特に美容院でコミュニケーションが難しかったら問題が起こるかもしれないでしょ。従業員も何か間違ったことをしたらダメだから怖いと思うんだけど、でもあなたはそれに対して文句を言っているようね。という感じですが、皆さんどう思いますか？ここからは外国人が店や賃貸の大家に拒否されるという話が出てきます。
I knew they exist openly there, but I didn't know you could literally say no to foreigners. Absolutely, you can say no to foreigners in Japan and in many circumstances where the foreigners are just not protected at all. For example, when I turned 18, I tried to get my first apartment and I was denied over and over and over again because I was foreign. That was literally the only reason that I got denied so many times. It was because I was foreign and I didn't have a Japanese person to sign for me to say, yes, you're good to get this apartment. They were not beating around the bush either. They were saying, you can't get this because you are a gaijin or a foreigner. I've been denied entry into maybe 2 bars in my entire time there, but it still did happen. I also applied for jobs, and then when I went for the interview, they're like, sorry, we don't hire foreigners. All that being said, in the United States, I do feel is worse, and this is my opinion, just based on my experiences. In Japan, more like an inconvenience and kind of like a disrespectful thing, and it's really frustrating, but people are less likely to do things to adamantly like hurt you in some way like they would be in the US. For example, in the United States, you could argue that there are people because of the color of their skin. It's a pretty easy argument to make. In Japan, doesn't happen. I mean, super uncommon to begin with, but like especially race-driven, like I don't know that I've ever heard of one before. You could also argue that somebody who doesn't like a certain race of people who calls the police and lies about what they're doing intentionally to get them in trouble could also be a form of trying to get them really hurt. All this being said though, it's not really common in Japan. You can find no foreigners allowed bars and restaurants and a couple other places, but it's pretty rare. I don't actually know how many there are. Maybe there's a statistic somewhere. It may or may not be right, but in my experience, there's not really that many. And by and large, people might be more like judgmental or curious rather than aggressively really disliking you. That's mainly the older generation.
So I'm going to give you 2 very common examples of in Japan. The second one is going to be way worse than the first. The first is the gaijin seat, where a Japanese person will stand up and get away from you when you sit down next to them on the train. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, it kind of sucks. It makes you feel like you're not welcome in this country. And the second one, I'm not going to rent the apartment to you because you're a foreigner. In Japan, it is legally allowed to discriminate your tenants based on their nationality. So if you're not Japanese, they can literally say, no, I'm gonna not rent to you because you're A, filthy, B, loud, C, can't speak Japanese probably, and D, you're filthy.
僕が大家さんなら確実に外国人より日本人を優先すると思います。だって揉めるの嫌じゃし、話に出てた職場の件も同様です。というか、こういうことに文句言う前に外国人はうるさいとか汚いとか自分たちの行為から生まれたステレオタイプを憎むべきだわ。火のないところに煙はと言いますが、そこを見直さずに文句言うのは赤ちゃんと変わらないですよ。ステレオタイプって事実から生まれたものがほとんどだと思うので。ということで現地の声を見てみますと、これだから日本は死にゆく国なんだよ。こんな国に行きたい奴がいるのか？言っておくが、これは人種問題ではない。日本人はこういう態度を他のアジア人にも取るからな。日本を神格化している連中もそろそろ気づくべきだよ。日本は他の国より悪いってことをね。私の息子も日本で嬉しくない経験をしたわ。僕も予約客限定だからって店に断られたことがある。コメントを見るに日本は平気で外国アメリカの方がこれに関してはずっとマシだという意見が結構多かったですね。最後は国です。
This is in Japan 101. I'm going to be giving you guys a historical background of against black people in Japan. All of this information is available online, and if you want to learn more, please look up John G. Russell, who is a black scholar who lives in Japan. Many countries around the world, including Japan, have a negative image of black people because of the transatlantic slave trade. And you might think that Japanese people don't know about blackface or slavery, and this is just not true. It was in the 16th and 17th century that Japan made the initial contact with Africans because of the slave trade. Through this contact, Africans were referred to as and monkeys, etc. Further down the line, in 1854, Japanese people were shown mints for the first time. The Characters would resurface in the 20th century as Sambo dolls. If you don't know what a Sambo doll is, please Google. Yeah. During World War II against black people in Japan was kind of out there. They would refer to black people as beast-like, primitive, etc. In the 19th century, social Darwinism was extremely popularized in Japan. This is because Japan's interest in Western science continued to increase over time. In the post-war period, this idea of racial hierarchies continued to trickle into Japanese society. Fast forward to the 21st century, and black skin is now completely fetishized. Nevertheless, we see African and African American dance, style, fashion, music, all integrated into Japanese modern entertainment. Through this process of globalization, the commodification of black culture continues to increase in Japan today. In Japanese media, black people are seen as beast-like, oversized, etc. In addition to this, a lot of Japanese youth like to do dread hair, or just do dreads, or darken their skin with excessive tanning, or adopt a black lifestyle.
I often get the question, is Japan a country? Well, let's break it down a little further. It seems every country has their own variation of the N-word. Japan is no different. If you want to find out what it is, Google it. I'm not gonna say it on here. My own personal anecdote with Japanese in Japan is when my dark-skinned friend from the UK had appendicitis and I had to take him to the hospital. When we went to the hospital, the nurse couldn't see his veins and kept poking him in the arm until she could find a vein. And I'm aware you're supposed to feel for the vein. She claimed she just couldn't see it, so she couldn't find it. His skin was too dark. And it's not just me personally who has experienced racism. I have other black friends here who live here and love living here. It's just some of the people here are extremely anti. When it comes to medical place, it all exists here just how it exists every single other place in the world. Do I still love living here? Yes, I do, because the people aren't going to ruin it for me.
ということで皆さんどうでしたか？もうなんか言いたいことが多すぎて言葉になりませんし、一つ言うとすると静脈が見つけにくいのはしょうがないのでは。真っ黒の肌に慣れてる日本人のナースなんて日本にはそんなにいないと思いますし、日に焼けた日本人の肌色と本当に真っ黒な黒人の肌色ってまた違いますから、それをとか言われてたらもう何もできませんよ。ということで彼女たちの動画に称賛の声が多いようなので確認してみますと、驚かないわ。アジアはどこもこんな感じよ。白人はこうやって有色人種を分断させたいんだろうな。全てのアジアの国にはこういう態度があるよな。やばいねこの話。日本人は自分たちのことを嫌っていて白人化している。私は10年間日本に住んでいて本当に大好きでお気に入りの場所だけど、文化東洋は起こってるし、確かに起こっている。他の国と同様にね。とてもいい情報ね、ありがとう。皆さんの考えもコメント欄でぜひ教えてください。このチャンネルでは欧米のマジかよっていうニュースを普段は楽しく紹介してます。チャンネル登録、高評価、ベル通知、概要欄からインスタ、ツイッターをフォローしていただけるととっても喜びますのでよろしくお願いします。それでは一日を、怒りのシュシュ。